Hello world, this is Gorgon Soup speaking. So in this video series we'll break down the book Finnegans Wake, page by page, to see what James Joyce had to say about our future. Now obviously you're asking, what does he mean when he says our future? That sounds really weird. Well, don't get me wrong, but our reality may seem like an orderly and logic place, but it is in fact much deeper than that. It's more like a simulacra, if you don't mind. You'll understand what I mean when I get to the analysis part of this video. Now, Finnegans Wake is a very complex and mystical book that Joyce wrote at the end of his life, similarly like Nostradamus did. Now, I'm not saying that Joyce and Nostradamus are related somehow, even though they both lived in France for a while, and you can make your mind like what you would like it to be like that, about that. So I'll read the first page out loud, then we'll break it down afterwards to see what is hidden in the text, and especially what James Joyce and Nostradamus can tell us about our future, as well as maybe the current state and the current world. So hold on to something, because this is gonna get layered. Okay, let's get started. River Run, past Eve and Adams, from Swear of Shore to Bend of Bays, brings us by a commodious vicious of circulation back to Howth Castle and environs. Sir Tristram, Violer de Armors, Frere over the short sea had passing corps arrived from North Armykirk. On this side of Scraggy, Isthmus of Europe's minor to Wilderweight his peninsulated war, nor had Tupsayer's rocks by the stream of Connie exaggerated themselves. To Lawrence country's gorgeous while they went doubling their mupper all the time. Nor a voice from a fire belowst mish to toff toward Petrick. Not yet, though venison after, had a Kitsgad button a bland old Isaac. Not yet, though, all fair in Vanity. Where Susie Seathers wrote with Twone, Nat and Joe, wrought a peck of my Pays malt, had jam and chen, brewed by Arclight and Rory. And to the Riggin brow was to be seen ringsome on the aquaface. The fall. Babalbalbalbala, Haragan, Chan, Kamen Runguk, Kun Brun Turn, Tun Hun Run Brun Verun, and Tun Hun 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 Bundunuk. Of a once Wall Street old par is related. Early in bed and later in life, down through old Christian minstrelsy. The great fall of the oft wall entailed as such in short notice the pursuit of Finnegan, erst a solid man. That the Humpty Hillhead of himself promptly sends an inquiring one well to the west in quest of his Tumty-Tum toes, and their upturned pike point and place is at the knockout in the park, where oranges have been laid to rust upon the green since Divenfench loved Livy. Wasn't that wild, guys? Now you see that, you see what I mean, right? You can feel it somehow, but you can't really grasp it yet, right? You can sense that there's something very deep and rich in this text that I argue is, about our future, because he was kind of foreseeing this, I agree, so let's dive down into it. Okay, so first up we have the word river run. Now I don't really know how he could foresee the making of Game of Thrones, to be honest, but don't get fooled. Joyce thinks that he can fool the hoi polloi with his first word. Like we would only think of Game of Thrones when we see that word, like some simpletons. No, it's rather how it is connected to the next set of words, Adam and Eve, past Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, obviously, and created the original sin. A lackluster world full of despair and chaos, much like the creators of the Game of Thrones series did, with no logic at all, So for me, you know, I think we're not grasping for straws here when we say this, that Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, right? As you all know, and created the original sin. A lackluster world full of despair and chaos, much like the creators of Game of Thrones did in their world. So you see, he's really talking about the the how he could foresee the ending of Game of Thrones and how it would be so bad, you know, as likewise to Adam and Eve's story. So that's that's basically it, and I don't want to stick around on this first sentence too long because we have a lot to unpack. So let's move forward. So next up we got the Bend of Bay. Obviously, he's talking about the Basha Bay here in Taiwan and how this will probably be part of the main attack from China when they invade Taiwan, because it's a nice beach next to Taipei, and it will send shivers down the spines of people as an opening attack, you know. So always crush the tourism first, because then the economy will falter. So that's Joyce's view here. Um, Next up, we got the, house, castle, and environs here. And at first, it's really hard to distinguish what this can be about, you know. But when you add the recirculation word here, you know, you can see that this doesn't really mean a lot of things, because he's talking about the recirculation, which implies the feudal society, because he's talking about the house castle. So, you know, soon we will be back at the feudal society when the ice cap have melted and the environment has blown us up. And then House Castle will be the first castle again after the environmental crisis. And this Sir Tristram will be the king of that castle in North America, which will be the new country in the West. So he's talking about down here, we will get to this later, but West in Quest he talks about. So this is alluding to North America, which is in the new Pangea number 2. And so if you survive the environmental disaster, if you are the lucky one of the lucky ones, look for Sir Tristram in the West. Okay, moving forward here. Will there wait his Peninsulate War? Now, this is talking about the Peninsulate War, which is the gender wars, and how it will destroy society and burn it to the ground. And you see the word a fire here, which alludes to that it will burn to the ground. And you know, the wielder weight, the one who wields the penises, you know, and it will be the war of the genders here, and it will, you know, be a bit exaggerated. So we can move on from that. The next thing I found really curious was this mish mish to tof tof tut Petrick. Now, this is some kind of incantation that he is talking about here, but it's a very mystical thing, and I can't say that I can really deconstruct it for you guys, because I think I mean, either it's self-explanatory or it's very complex, but I don't really get it, to be honest. So you have to make your own mind what he means, but I believe it's some kind of incantation, and I'm a bit afraid of it, to be honest. So I will leave it at that. Next up, we have the venison after had a skid scale button, the bland old Isaac. Now, bland old Isaac we can skip, but I think the venison here is really interesting that he talks about, and I think he's really alluding to, you know, that every carnivore will be killed in the future. So you should watch out for that, and they will be stoned. I think he talked about stone somewhere, but yeah. So look out for this, guys. Next up, we have the Rota Peck, which is really interesting. So here is foreseeing the gym bros, that we all love the pecs, or but we all love the pecs, and they will rot away, which means that there will be no gyms, and we can just in the future we can just skip the going to the gym because the pecs won't matter really anymore then, and it's also talking about the malt, which is probably that what we will end up doing in the future. We will be drunkards in some Irish novel. So yeah, it's sad, but no more pecs for you guys. So next up, this is not really anything interesting or new, this thing, but next thing that's curious is the fall. Now he starts with the fall, and then he has this really interesting kind of short story when he's talking about many different things, but it's really the combination of the fall and this short story that is, you know, making it clear what it is about. So the fall is talking about the end of the world again. Here we got even Adam. That we're gonna have a new even Adam, a new forbidden fruit. I don't know what if it's gonna be a fruit or if it's gonna be a protein shake or whatever, but there's gonna be a new world, and this comes after the fall. And so this short story is by a rambling man in the end of the fall. And he if you deconstruct this really much, it's dust to dust almost. It's really this old man who gives a lecture about that we should have foreseen the end of the world and really fought for it. And I think James Joyce really makes a point about this here that you have to really, humans, we don't learn until after we made a mistake. And I think James Joyce really realized this early. So he's really talking about kind of like the Hegelian dialectic. And this old man is rambling at the fall at the end of civilization, and we don't, we have this kind of two different forces that interact and counter each other all the time. That we don't really learn until after we made the mistakes. That's a very human thing to do. So what he's saying here is that he wishes that everyone would have read Hegel, and understood that how the human nature works and how we could have evolved from that and foreseen the fall of civilization to counter it. That's basically it. Okay, next up we got the Wall Street guys. Yes, so here he's again talking about the end of the world, but in a slightly more curious way because he's talking about the Wall Street guys and how we will all turn to Christianity. All normal people will turn to Christianity at the end of the world, but the Wall Street guys will still sit there on their computers at Wall Street, and they're only thinking of one thing, and they will puke their guts out. It doesn't matter if the world is ending next to them; they will still be at the computer, and they will still do the stocks, boom, boom, bam, boom, and so they only have one thing in mind, and you kind of can. They go out with a bang because of that, because they only think of one thing. And you can think of how you want about that, but it's pretty. It's interesting that they're very, you know, one-sided minded, as you would say. And it's interesting, some people really fight for that one thing, if it's money or if it's whatever, and you can blame them, but they do what they like, and I mean, I wish we would not have them in the world, but we're living in a capitalistic society, so I mean, they are included, all inclusive, so to speak. Um, but yeah, so the Wall Street guys will not survive either. You can at least be happy about that. That is Joyce's conclusion here, but they will go out with a bang. So next up, this stuff is not really interesting. It's talking about some, some things that will happen, you know, uh, in the end. But I want to get back to this sentence here, that the West in quest of his Humpty toes. Now I believe that West in quest is talking really about Sir Tristram again in House Castle in the New Pangaea in the North America. So if you survive, you should really remember this, that this is the way. Always look for the Western quest. And Sir Tristram has the Humpty toes. So if you see more than 10 toes, then you know that it's Sir Tristram. And here again, he's talking about, you know, when the tsunamis come and when the tornadoes come, they're gonna knock out the oranges. And I mean, we can take it literally, or we can deconstruct it even more, But it is what it is, and there's gonna be new forests. Everything will rust, but there's gonna be new forests in the new Pangaea. So I think he's still he still sees a bright future in that way. Uh, so yeah, that was it. So I think both negative and positive vibes from this first page, and I think he's onto something about this. You can almost call it the Genesis book of his, or the Genesis page rather, of his book. That he starts with the Genesis, that the world will end, or how the world will end, and then how he will get by afterwards. So that's basically it. So guys, I wrote down some main takeaways here from the first page. You can stop the video and just look at them yourselves. And yeah, that's all from me. And maybe I'll do page 2 maybe sometime in the future. Let's see. And thanks for sticking around, and hope you enjoyed it, and see you around. Take care.